basically, in the last fireside chat, I exchanged a little bit with Gerald from Miles & More how he sees basically the industry evolving, what the trends are. I mean, basically, you are in the same environment, but I would be very interested, what is your personal take on what's going to happen and how is Flying Blue reacting to this?
Sure. No, actually, further to the credit cards, I mean, we see the amount of miles that people earn from flying is being dwarfed by the amount of miles that people are earning from financial institutions, from partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. So not even including the U.S. carriers, and there's also less in this room, like probably not surprised when, we see the programs that American, Delta, United have, $20 billion plus dollars. But in Europe, I mean, we actually recently surpassed a pretty, I think, interesting milestone, which is that we now have more members earning miles in the U.S. from miles conversion than we do total people flying KLM, which is our kind of the number of 2 airlines in our group. So we have more miles coming from people converting miles in one country alone than the entire network of one of the biggest airlines in Europe. So we see that trend continuing. I mean, we have France is our number 1 market for Flying Blue. Netherlands was number 2. It has now been surpassed by the U.S. So it's something that we're leaning into. We like to say, we have these headline kind of redemption fares, and we really take advantage of the brand value of the airlines that we partner with, of course, Air France and KLM and all of our partners. We have these headline kind of redemption rates of 50,000 miles in business for the U.S. Or Canada, but it's also at the same time trying to find ways, and I think someone said it earlier, but how do we balance that with making sure our tier members are also feeling valued, because the miles conversion is not as big as in Europe or other parts of the world. We want to make sure that they feel value. We also want to make sure that we deliver on our second objective, besides generating revenue for the loyalty program, but also generating revenue for Air France and KLM, for our airlines. And it's trying to strike that balance, which we continue to focus on.
Can you tell a little bit about, let's say, the strategic guidelines, how you balance out those two interests?
Mm-hmm. Today I think it's an interesting mix. Like I say, I mean, we really, as a European-based program, we are considered a foreign, airline program in North America. But as a result, we are able to kind of take advantage of the strong brand appreciation and brand halos that we have from our mother brands, so to speak. And on the tier side, we see that people who continue to earn status with us, once they get on the hamster wheel, I mean, all of us have probably engaged in some loyalty program in some way, I would hope, in this room. And we find that the more they like our product and service, the more they continue to fly with us. So we try to make that shift as well. We see currently there's about a 15 to 20% uptick from people who convert once and were not previously customers, and they become revenue customers for us later on. So there's that link. And what we're studying now is, given we have both the kind of fixed level, entry level saver awards, whatever you want to call them, and then we have dynamically priced inventory for any seat on the plane. It's a mix of saying, okay, well, how can we perhaps increase the dynamically priced seats for those who are our Explorer members, our base level members, or perhaps giving our tier members a discount. And maybe tying the discount, and I think it was said earlier, which I really liked, which was, how do can you tie that into holding the credit card or being a member of the subscription product to really kind of complete the ecosystem around what the member engage with. So it's saying, how do we kind of push members to continue to engage with us, consume new products, and recognize and reward the loyal members as much as we can, so that they don't feel left out.
I think that it's not, let's say, one size fits all, it was said earlier, but it's a continuous development and improvement and try out what makes sense, what works, what doesn't.
Well, and we're lucky. I mean, it's true. We look at the total number of members, the total number of enrollments. We're about 550,000 per month, which is really nice to see, and it's continuing to improve. But at the same time, our active member share is between a third and a half, depending on how you measure your active members. And so, when we look at the success that we've had in continuing to engage these members, once they've actually enrolled, they're not just lying dormant, we look at that as a measure of, KPI that we look at, but given that we have between 33 to 50% of our members that are considered active, we're pretty proud of that.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's change perspective a little bit. Flying Blue, or respectively your parent airline companies, have received a major investment from third-party investor. Can you tell a little bit about what the strategic rationale behind this move is, and basically, if it's only the first step,
Yes.
what will we see next?
So the good news with that transaction, we were able to raise 1.5 billion euros off of the value that we bring in a loyalty program. It was the first time, well, I guess I should say Like Miles was probably the first, but it was the first time an airline in Europe was really able to leverage its loyalty program to raise such a significant amount of money. And for us, what that allowed us to do was actually recognize the value that loyalty brings to the airline. Because IAG has done this for a while, but in Air France-KLM, we never reported out independently on the value of our loyalty division. It was just a team that was kind of buried within the commercial arm of Air France-KLM. So with this, we were able to kind of, for the first time in our Q1 results, really announce that this is the amount of money that we were able to bring, that we were able to generate direct revenue for Flying Blue. We are the highest margin business I can now come out and say that. We're the highest margin business in the company. We have margins between 25 and 50%, depending on how you calculate it. And it's continuing to grow. So for us, the good news is that it changed nothing for the customers. And that was the key part that we wanted to make clear, because there was some, I wouldn't say unrest, but there was customers that had concerns when this was announced. Will this, mean that the prices of our tickets are going to go up? Will this mean that our data is going to be sold? Will this mean that, the rules of the program will change and it will be harder to earn status? And, the short answer is no. And the way we structured this was to make sure that Apollo, who's the private equity fund that invested in us, did not have a say on the way we run the business. As long as we meet certain thresholds, it's up to us to continue to run the businesses. And for us, this was a key part of it, because maintaining our customer trust and customer confidence was paramount.
Does it also mean that when it comes to your management or your entrepreneurial decisions, you are not bound to any limits, or?
I still have a boss, but
unfortunately,
but no. But overall, from a third party perspective, no. Yeah.
Okay, you talked about that basically from a customer perspective, nothing is going to change due to this transaction,
Correct.
Which is good news.
Yeah.
But when you look at it from the, let's say, program development perspective, what will we see developing in the program? Let's say partners, new services or whatever, new benefits.
Only good things. I promise. There's no devaluations.
Not bad.
No, I mean I've announced this before, but we're launching a subscription program. Hopefully later this year, might be pushed till next year. We've seen the success that Emirates has had. I think some other programs have had with their subscription models, and we're really excited to see how that, with our spin on that, how that's going to impact loyalty. Because I think you go after that long tail, and you go after people who are willing to engage. And what I like about it financially, for those in this room who are looking at this, it's pure margin, right? Because when we look at the delivering of tier benefits, which of course, if you're in an airline, you know that you have to work with your ancillaries team, your management team, your airport colleagues. You not only have to pay for, or at least you have to figure out how to account for the cost of additional, people in the lounge, waived baggage fees, those kind of things. But you also have to transport the customer from A to B. Right, so you have the operational margin, which is, in our industry was 5%, 7%, something like that. But then you take all of the costs on top of that. Whereas with a subscription product, it's, yes, you have the cost of the benefit, but everything else is pure margin. So financially, it works well. Hopefully, it will be a success for us. We've continued investing in the core tier benefits because, to make it clear, I think we want to make sure that customers don't feel that they can purchase loyalty. So when we will offer the subscription, it won't replace any of the benefits that you can otherwise earn. It will complement, it will enhance, to kind of push both non-frequent flyers as well as our loyalty top tier members to engage with. We'll offer something for everyone. That's the idea. As a bit of an aside, and we were looking at lounge access, right? And rather than saying, okay, well, it's unlimited lounge access and it's an all or nothing proposition, which could lead to crowding for people who just continue to buy it, or for tier members who already get it, they might say, well, I don't need it. We went for a voucher concept. So you'll get additional vouchers which says, okay, well, if I normally get one guest because I'm a gold member, now I can bring, a couple of colleagues at once. I can bring additional guests. And for those who aren't status members, they'll get access to the lounge a number of times. So those are the kinds of things that we looked at when we developed that. We also introduced on our ultimate tier, which is our top tier, things like dedicated fast track. So when you come into arrive in Paris, in the international arrivals, for anyone who's done that, it can be quite lengthy if you come arrive at certain times of the day. Now these members have a dedicated fast track they're through within a minute, which is really nice. Dedicated spaces in our lounges. The upgrade vouchers we've made easier to use. I think we've introduced the ability for them to be used on award tickets, which is a really big request from our members, and that we listened to that and we were able to finance that. From our platinum and ultimate tiers, we introduced waived service fees, so changing or refunding tickets is now complimentary. We've introduced the ability to kind of spend more miles than you have. I know Lufthansa had that for a while, but our members, it was not something we had. So now we introduced a kind of overdraft ability for our members up to a maximum number of miles per year. So we are continuing to invest in the core product as well.
Some of the things that you mentioned, like the additional vouchers for the lounge, is kind of a dynamization of status benefits.
Yeah.
Will we see more of this dynamization logic?
I know Najib was mentioning this yesterday, and I know that they really believe in the personalization of benefits. I take a different approach. I appreciate why they want to do that, and I think there's value in offering you choice. And I think some airlines offer both core, and you can then pick from others. I mean, Air Canada does that. I think what the position that I take is, I think it's always good to have a clear set of benefits that you can advertise. And I think that way customers always know this is what I get. It's a package of benefits that I'm able to qualify for once I meet the criteria. And it sets the bar such that this is what they strive for. They know what they get. They're able to kind of take advantage. They're able to talk about it, word of mouth. And then on top of that is where I'd like to introduce more dynamic benefits, whether it's through choice at a particular tier or in between with kind of different thresholds. We've seen a lot of programs do this, which I respect, and I think that works really, really well. Hyatt, has recently introduced that in their hotel program once you reach a certain number of nights. So I think those things work really well once you incentivize members to go beyond or in between the tiers. What we see, for example, we had our lifetime status, our lifetime platinum, where if you earned platinum for 10 years, you were guaranteed platinum for life. And what we saw was that, because we also pair that with the ability to carry over your status miles, it was unlimited. You could fly 3 years nonstop, and then you'd be guaranteed platinum for life if you never step foot on a plane again, because you would have so much that was banked. That's changing. So there we said, okay, you can only carry over a maximum amount, and you have to continue to qualify every year. But what we had was members who said, well, either I don't see the benefits at the next tier being valuable enough, or I already guaranteed this, so what's the point? Whereas when you offer things at certain thresholds, you continue the member's journey, and you get them to continue to travel with you. So that's where I think you'll see more of those dynamic things.
Yeah, I absolutely appreciate your answer, and I also find it very helpful that there is no single truth.
Yeah.
And basically there are arguments for this strategy and also arguments for another strategy. And what might work for one company must not necessarily work for another one. So
well, and it's interesting. That's what I have found really as a Canadian that now works in a European loyalty company. I mean, the way that Europeans will approach loyalty programs versus North Americans, it's night and day. And so I've had to obviously learn. I've had a lot of opportunity to do that, but also what customers want. And you have to give customers what they want. You can't dictate to them what they want. That's sometimes the challenge that you have, because it's true, one size doesn't always fit all. In our case, a lot of European customers that we interact with like the recognition aspect. They like the special treatment. So we've asked our crews to be much more engaging with that, and a lot of them will now write personal notes that they'll give to customers. And I've heard a lot of positive feedback from those kinds of things, or when we escort them, to certain areas in the lounge rather than them going themselves. I mean, those kinds of things we have gotten a lot of positive feedback, and that's where you have to adapt. Whereas North America, it's much more self-service. It's much more I want to do everything myself, and if it's slower or if this takes longer, I get frustrated. So you have to find a way to adapt to both cultures.
Besides Flying Blue, of course, but what is your favorite loyalty program, and what could others learn from this?
I was a big fan of Starwood, SPG, back in the day. That's what got me hooked on loyalty programs, and I think they did a really good job at kind of getting customers to engage with them, staying in hotels out of the way, those kinds of things. Today, I would say one of my favorite programs is Built, which is in the U.S. For those of you who don't know it, it's a loyalty program where you can earn points for paying rent, and that's pretty unique. For a lot of people, that's their number one expense that they couldn't previously earn miles on, and they've extended that into a co-brand proposition. and they've extended that into neighborhood dining and partner gyms and fitness clubs. And I think they're really going for that lifestyle push, but it's quite innovative, and the team there is really smart.
It's an interesting one because I guess in the US market, people typically tend to buy the houses, which at least in many European countries is completely different. And as you said, this might be a big lever for your mileage account. Yeah, from my side, thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the audience to Ben? Now he's here.
Is it really interesting you talking through the loyalty dynamics and what loyalty programs offer customers? I'm really interested in sort of communicating that to customers. And there's a whole industry, if you think Head for Points, Points Guy, that's there. And actually still a bit of a club where customers are really confused as to what loyalty programs offer, how to engage with a loyalty program, especially ones that are entering it. People keep asking me, because I'm ex-loyalty, how do I use my points? What should I do? What programs do this the best? What programs create a community, and why do airlines struggle so much with communicating these benefits to customers?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think what those communication, like what the blogs do really well, and for those of you who don't know, these blogs, they make millions of dollars a year. So it's not a small venture, and a lot of them are actually owned by other companies. Some are owned by private equity. I mean, it's a very, very lucrative venture, particularly when you add the referral that they get from the credit card, like when they push credit cards. So in principle, they say, look, I travel in first class, I stay in 5-star hotels, and how did I do that? Well, I use my miles, which you can earn by getting this credit card, click here to sign up, and then they get a bonus, right? So that's kind of how it works. And it works well with airlines too, because they push certain airline programs, and then we don't pay them, but a lot of the time they might get inside access or whatever. I think they're able to succeed because it looks like it's kind of a homegrown industry. It looks like it's some guy writing who's in his spare time and he's teaching you the secrets, right? On Instagram, you have a lot of these influencers who teach you the same thing. I think the challenge that loyalty programs have coming directly from us is it sounds corporate. And I think it's that level of trust, which it's not always easy to build. We're also the industry of evaluations. And yesterday your points were with this, and today they're worth that. And we say things like, oh, due to customer demand, or due to increase this, and customers aren't stupid, right? So you have to, I think, treat your members with respect, but you kind of always just have to understand that there's always going to be that cottage industry, as it were, of people who are going to tell you how to travel hack, even if it's what you want them to do. It can't be you who says it. But it's an interesting challenge.
Okay. Thank you very much. Pleasure as always. And I think we have a jingle for the next panel to come.
Great.